there, and thank you so much for joining me for this video. So I wanted to go ahead and just record a short video to formally welcome you to this course, which is Introduction to Disability Studies. My name is Dr. Doe Buckley, and yes, it is Doe, D-O-E, like a deer. So you are free to call me Dr. Doe, Dr. Buckley, or just Doe. It really doesn't matter. I'm not really a formal kind of title sort of person. So my name is, again, Doe, and it's so nice to meet you. And I'm so glad that you're joining me today for this welcome video. Okay, so who am I? Well, I have been teaching primarily in the world of psychology for about 10 years. So prior to graduate school, where I got my PhD in cognitive psychology, I was a student at Sweetbriar College, which is a women's college in rural Virginia, where I'm from. So I grew up, my childhood I spent in San Diego, California, and then my teenage years I grew up in Yorktown, Virginia, and then I went to school near Lynchburg, Virginia. So those are kind of my stomping grounds. And then I did my graduate work, my PhD at UCLA, so I went back to California. And let's see. Uh, My family is mostly military, so my father and my late brother, and most people in my family are military. They were in the Navy, so that's kind of my background. So I've been teaching mostly psychology courses, like I said, for about 10 years, and I have spent 6 of those 10 years teaching at Mercer. So I absolutely love Mercer. I love how compassionate and civic and community minded our students are. And I love the wonderful relationships that I get to build with all of my students at Mercer. So like I said, I'm really excited to be teaching all of you this semester. Introduction to Disability Studies is one of my very favorite courses, and I don't think I would be able to teach it at any other university besides Mercer because they're so encouraging about interdisciplinary courses and things of that nature, and they're really interested in preparing you guys, preparing Mercer students for making an impact on your community. So I'm really excited that you're here. So as I mentioned in the syllabus, and I also mentioned in the email I sent most of you, this will be an online course, but I have a fair amount of experience teaching both in-person and online courses. So I've taught, for example, intro. I've taught, of course, cognitive psychology, which if you don't know what cognitive psychology is, it's basically just psychological science as it relates to the mind or the scientific study of the mind. And my particular focus as a psychologist is on human memory. Right, so I study a couple of different things in that area. So mostly I'm interested in how to optimize memory, particularly in an educational context. So for example, I've worked with K through 12 teachers, I've worked with textbook companies, I've worked with a lot of different people, kind of teaching them the principles of memory and how those can be considered in an educational context. I've also studied how everyday lapses in forgetting can actually help you remember other information. So forgetting extraneous information actually makes it easier for you to remember the information that you want to remember. I'm also interested in sports psychology, so this summer I got to teach a summer course in sports psychology, and my research focuses on using some of the same principles I use to optimize memory in an athletic context. So I've taught a lot of different courses face to face, research methods and statistics, INT 101, history and systems. And I've also taught online. So I have taught both my main course, which is cognitive psychology, and sports psychology. Um, so you guys might have seen in the email that I sent that due to my disability and some underlying health conditions that I have, that I am not healthy enough basically to teach face to face in the COVID pandemic that we find ourselves in. So I will be teaching all of my courses online this semester. But like I said, I have a lot of experience, and I hope you guys are really going to enjoy this class. All right, so just a couple of more interesting things about me. So I've talked about my teaching experience, my research experience, and things like that. But let me chat about some more interesting things. So when I was growing up, before I ever dreamed of being a psychologist or a disability studies scholar in academia, I really wanted to be a country music singer, right? So I grew up in the 90s before the days of like Taylor Swift or Carrie Underwood or whatever people are listening to nowadays. Um, so I listened to like Garth Brooks and Faith Hill and those sorts of people. And I tried very earnestly to learn three different instruments. So I played the guitar, I played the mandolin, I played something called a mountain dulcimer. Maybe some of you musicians are familiar with that. It's an Appalachian bluegrass instrument. And I also took voice lessons. And what's particularly interesting about these factoids, if you will, is that I was really, really awful at all four of those things. So I was definitely not destined to become an accomplished musician as much as I love music and I enjoyed meeting all of my teachers and working with those instruments. I am really, really a terrible musician. And so the reason why I share that information with students is because I think a lot of you come into college, particularly in your first 2 years, uh, maybe thinking you know what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? So maybe you come in as a pre-med major or an engineering major or something like that. And then you might find that you end up doing those things, but you also might find that those particular courses are maybe not as fulfilling as you thought. Not that engineering or medicine or biology isn't fulfilling, but I guess my point is that this is the time for you guys to learn and explore and embrace any kind of failures or changes in plans that you might experience. And just be assured that if things don't go entirely as planned or you end up changing your mind a few times, that doesn't mean that you won't ultimately be successful. Um, Another factoid is that I really, really love 90s sitcoms. And my favorite 90s sitcom is Seinfeld. So I have probably seen every single episode at least 50 times. And I've watched them so much that I can now quote from memory every single episode. Um, and so normally I would tell people that it's not enough to just expose yourself to information. You actually have to do something with it. But in this case, I guess I watch them so often that they are now permanently sealed in my long-term memory, right? So it was obviously time well spent. Okay, so my last little factoid is that I really like teaching. So I know you guys probably hear that from a lot of different professors, or most professors that you meet. So I just wanted to emphasize that this is really true in my case. I have spent a lot of time in the last 10 years sort of honing the craft of teaching, and I hope that all of my students genuinely enjoy my classes and get a lot from them. And I also want to share that I am mutually gratified by the experience of teaching, and I really enjoy it, and I feel very lucky to be in a career that is as um, satisfying and fulfilling as my teaching career at Mercer has been. So my final slide here is introducing my dog, because you will likely see her in a lot of my videos sitting on my lap and trying to get me to pet her. So I figured since she will undoubtedly make herself a complete nuisance, I might as well tell you about her. So I adopted Marley. She's a Maltese poodle. So I adopted her from a rescue in 2014, and I trained her to be a service dog. So she does a lot of different things, or she has done a lot of different things. She's retired now, but I trained her to bring me my breathing medications when I'm having an episode or an asthma attack. And she either has them clipped to her and is trained to sit on my lap, or she can actually find them and bring them to me. So she has a set of very special skills, I guess you could say. She's no longer working, but she still retains most of these skills to this day. And I decided not long ago, because I had her in graduate school, that when I got my PhD, she would get one as well. So I decided she has a PhD in canine psychology, and her particular areas of expertise are cuddling, snipping, scratching, chasing squirrels, and constantly demanding my affection or attention. Okay, so look for Marley in some of my videos. I don't want to make this too long because I know you guys, have a lot going on. But it's very nice to meet all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful experience. I hope we both do in this Introduction to Disability Studies course. And I will see you around virtually, and I'll see you in my next video, and I hope you have a wonderful first week of classes.